Greetings from the kitchen, folks. Today I'm going to have a go at making a Bonfire Toffee apple cider. So here's today's key ingredients. I'm using apples, not apple juice from concentrate, proper apples, all windfalls from my own apple tree in my front garden. There's 1.5 kilos of apples here. I'm using 2 tins of black treacle, cross my loof cider yeast, a bit of brewing yeast nutrient and a couple of tea bags. Alongside this, spring water, and my fermentation vessel of choice today is the traditional standard demijohn. So let's crack on. So to begin with, I'm chucking my 2 tea bags into my saucepan and I'm following my tea bags with some spring water. I'm going to add about 1 litre. That'll do. Then it's lid on, gas on and heat on. So I'm going to leave this now to make a pan of tea. And I'm going to move on to the apples. Right, so I've got my big chopper out. As these are windfall apples, there might be some bad bits or dodgy bits. If I see anything I don't like the look of, like that, I'm just going to cut it off. It'll be alright underneath it. A little bit of brown isn't going to kill it. And then I'm going to half my apples, like so. No need to take the cores out or anything like that. They're going to get out at a later stage. So I'm just going to continue to half my apples, like so. And if they do look bad, like that one, I'll just get rid of that half of it and keep the other bit. Okay, that's all of my apples cut up. They're now going in here. This is my steamer. So it's just a case of loading the apples on each level. I'm going to put them cut side down. And I'm going to use all 3 levels of the steamer so that they all hopefully get a nice even steam. You could just put these in a saucepan with a very small amount of water and achieve the same effect. Or, if you've got a big enough freezer, you could freeze them. But the purpose in doing this is to soften them so that I can push them through a sieve to extract the juice and the flesh and separate them from all the nasty bits that you don't want in there. So I've got more apples than I've got room for in this, so I am going to have to double layer a little bit. But it's no bother. They're going to get a good steam in, so I'm not concerned that they're going to be hard. Apple flesh actually softens really easy, a lot easier than a lot of other fruits. Surprisingly so. That'll do. So there's my apples in the steamer, and I'm going to turn this on for an initial 40 minutes and then I'll come back to them and have a look then. Well, that's going on. Let's get back to the tea. Okay, let's have a look at the tea. Just about to come to a boil. While I'm waiting for that, I'm going to mash the tea bags to release the tannins. So tannins give the cider a bit more body. There's a bit of flavour there as well, not a lot, but it does give it a bit more body and a bit more of a rounded mouthfeel when you're drinking it. Okay, my tea's just starting to boil, so I'm now going to extract and squeeze the bags. I want to get all the juice and all the flavour that I can out of them. And just to show you that I don't believe in waste, that's for the compost heap. So I've got the lids off my black treacle and I'm now going to pour this into the tea. I've turned the heat right down, so I don't want this to burn on the bottom. But I do want it to dissolve in the water and make a black treacly tea. This is going to take a while and I've got 2 tins to do, so I'll be back in a bit. So I'm just going to stir this to make sure that the black treacle has melted, and in fact it has. So that's all good. So I'm now going to turn the heat off. Okay, 40 minutes later, you can see the apple has really fallen apart with the steam, so that's going to be nice and easy for me to work with. And I'm basically going to be pushing the apple through that sieve to get all the nice flesh out, keep all the horrible bits back in the sieve, and the nice stuff will go into the demijohn. So I'm just going to spoon the pulped apple into the sieve. Then using my wooden spoon, I'm just going to work it through the sieve, and it'll start to fall through into the funnel and eventually into the demijohn. It takes a bit of time, so you don't need to watch it all. Okay, so that's the first lot, and you can see that there's all that lovely pulp just there. So I use my wooden spoon underneath the sieve to get that pulp off and into the funnel. This is going to go to compost, and I'll just use a bit of spring water to wash the funnel through. There it all goes, and I've basically just got to keep repeating this process. There's no point in you watching me do all that because it's not that exciting, so I'll be back in a bit. So that's all my apple pulp and some spring water in the demijohn. This is obviously going to be a very sediment heavy cider, so I'll end up racking this at some point probably before bottling. But now I need to add the black treacle tea. And you can see that's completely changed the profile and the appearance of this. It's actually solid. Okay, I've been at this a while now. It's getting late and I'm getting a bit fed up. Here's where I am. This, I think, would be better split across two demijohns rather than as it is. It's too thick at the top. It's not mixing properly. So I think what I need to do is split it across two demijohns, add some spring water, and then proceed from there. So I'm going to leave it overnight now in this one, and I'm going to come back and pick this up in the morning. So I'll catch you then. Morning from the kitchen, folks. I'm now going to carry on with my Bonfire Toffee cider. Here it is. It's been sat overnight. Nothing's happened. It's just stayed in two separate parts. So I'm going to mix it up now by adding it into another demijohn, pouring it back and forth until it mixes properly. And then I'm going to add some spring water and possibly some sugar, depending on what the gravity is. Right, so everything's been cleaned. So bung out. Let's get this poured through. I mean, the way it's separated, I wouldn't even be able to take the gravity. Oh, what a messy job. Oh. It's on my face, it's on my t-shirt, and it's all over the kitchen, which my wife's just cleaned. I'm sure she'll be thanking me. And then back across. I'm ensuring a good mix by doing this. Such a messy job, though. Right, a bit more. Standing next to each other. And they look pretty even to me. So these are looking quite equally divided now. So I'm going to add equal amounts of spring water to each one. And that will just loosen the whole liquid up. There's going to be quite a bit of airspace in the top of the demijohn, but I don't mind about that, because this will form a large krausen just by the amount of material that's in there. So they now look fairly even to me. I'm going to test the original gravity now to determine whether I'm going to add any sugar or not to it. Right, let's get that hydrometer in and see what the original gravity is. So the original gravity is very low. It's 1.020, which is rubbish. So I'm definitely going to put some sugar in. So in this saucepan I've got the black treacle tea that I made yesterday. There's just a bit left in it. I'm going to add a bit of normal tap water. I wouldn't normally use that, but I'm out of spring water. And I'm going to add 500 grams of silver spoon sugar. Again, I wouldn't normally use standard household caster sugar because I don't think it always gives as good a result flavour-wise, but I'm out of brew sugar. So let's make do and mend. So I basically need to add half of this packet. So I'm just boiling my water first. Hopefully that will get rid of some of the chlorininess as well. I want to stir the sugar into the black treacle tea. Get it moving round. I don't want to overfill my demijohn, so I don't want to have too much liquid in here. So in goes some boiling water. Maybe half a pint went in there. I didn't really measure it. And the sugar seems to have melted alright actually. Now I've got to add this into the demijohns. It's quite thick. And again, I want to keep it even. Okay, I'm just going to give this a little mix around, make sure that all that sugar water dissolves in there nicely. I want it all to be nicely mixed. I don't want layers inside there, I want it all the same. Temperature wise this is fine for taking the gravity now, so I'm going to do that. Here goes. That's much better than it was before for sure. So I'm now looking at an original gravity of 1.054, 1054. Okay, I'm going to add a bit of yeast nutrient. This is brewing wine yeast nutrient. It'll just give the yeast a slightly better time. I don't think it's massively necessary, but why not? I'm putting the equivalent of a heaped teaspoon in each one. Now, just to make it interesting, in this one just here, I'm going to use the Cross My Loaf cider yeast, like I said I was going to do all along. So I'm just going to put the equivalent of a heaped teaspoonful of that in there, which is kind of like half a packet this size. In this one, just to make it really interesting, in this one, instead of the Cross My Loaf cider yeast, I'm going to add Lalvin ICV D47 yeast. This is a wine yeast, but it usually leaves a fairly sweetish flavour. So it'll be interesting to see how the cider yeast compares to the wine yeast. And again, I'm going to add the equivalent of a heaped teaspoonful. And then with each of the demijohns, I'm just going to give it a shake around and a stir so the yeast all mixes in. I don't want clumping. So that's pretty much done. All I need to do now really is add the airlocks. You'll note that that one's a little bit bent. This is what happens when you put a 99p eBay airlock in a dishwasher at 60, but it still works. So that one in there. That one in there. Right, I'll come back to you with a progress update once fermentation has started, so I'll see you in a bit. So here it is. This is 2 hours later. So no huge krausen yet, both fermenting. The D47 one started fermenting after about 30 minutes. The Cross My Loaf one has taken a lot longer. It's taken nearly 2 hours for the first bubbles to appear in the airlock. Anyway, they are fermenting now, so unless anything dramatic happens during the fermentation, I'll be back when it's over. But if something dramatic does happen, then we'll have an update en route. I'll see you in a bit. Hey from the kitchen folks, it's Bonfire Toffee Cider Rack and Rescue Day. Let's have a look at it. So, it looks horrible there with all that chubby mess on the demijohn, but if we just draw away a second and look down, you will notice that in terms of efficiency, this hasn't worked. That to there is trub and sediment. That is all the cider I've got in that one, and similar in that one. So I think rather than trying to do one yeast versus another yeast, I'm just going to put them back into one demijohn, i.e. this one just here, this fermenting vessel, which is a Tesco 5 litre water bottle, and cut my losses. So there'll be no experiment this time, but hopefully I'll still end up with a cider which tastes like Bonfire Toffee. So it's first bung out, siphoning tube in. I've got the tube held in place with this clip. I'm estimating that it's just above the sediment line, but it is guesswork. I'm going to siphon it via a filter. Just a quick note, I've had to raise the height of my demijohns, otherwise the siphon wouldn't have worked very well down here. Let's see what happens. And I'm in the sediment, it's coming through like sludge. It's going a bit more liquid now, thick and syrupy. It does smell like Bonfire Toffee, which is a brilliant sign. And there's bubbles in the siphoning tube, so I'm going to leave it at that, I think. Right, next demijohn, bit more of the same. And again, I'm starting off with sludge, but that soon becomes liquid and it's going in nicely. So the filter's doing its job, and that's fine. So I'm having to regulate the flow by lifting the siphoning tube, otherwise it's going to overflow from the filter. It's quite a delicate balancing act. So it's getting quite a bit of trub through now in the pipe. I think that'll turn to bubbles very shortly. And there we go, bubbles in the siphoning tube. Tell me that's over? And probably just in time. And here it is, now in my utility room. I decided not to filter all the trub because I'd got one nice full 5 litre vessel, and if I did filter the rest, it would probably have only achieved that much more liquid. So it wasn't worth it. So I'm hopeful now that this will develop only a small amount of sediment, and that in the end from this, I'm going to get a decent cider. Let's wait and see what happens. So the next film that you get from me about this cider will either be clearing or bottling. So I'll catch you then. Good evening from the kitchen, folks. God, it's a hot one today, 25 outside it's been. It's a busy kitchen. As you can see, I've got Big Bertha with the cider in. I've got my Bonfire Toffee over here, and it's about the Bonfire Toffee that I'm having an update. I'm going to take the gravity because I can't tell whether the fermentation has stalled or whether it's finished, and I want to have a taste. If the gravity is low enough, and if it tastes okay, I'm going to bottle. If the gravity isn't low enough and it doesn't taste okay, then I'm going to try and restart it, possibly watered down with some apple juice. So let's do that. Just get the airlock out. And I'm going to pour around about 100 ml in here. It's so much more like beer than cider. A bit more than 100 ml. Just so I can take the gravity. I won't pour this back into the fermentation vessel. I'm going to drink it instead. Right. Fingers crossed for a nice low gravity. And that has sank beautifully. Oh, it's perfect. It has finished fermenting. It is on exactly 1.000. That's pretty good. I didn't expect it to have done, actually. I thought For some reason I thought it had stalled, but it hasn't. Cheers, folks. Do you know that is a very strange taste? It's way more dry and tart than I remember it being. I don't know if I want to dilute it with apple juice. I think what I'm going to do, it's meant to be Bonfire Toffee apple flavour, yeah? Is that what I said? Or did I say Bonfire Toffee? Anyway, it's going to be Bonfire Toffee apple flavour. I think as I bottle it, what I'll do is I'll put a pipette of the MyProtein apple Flavdrops in each of the bottles. So then you'll get the toffee and you'll get the apple. Hopefully that will come through as Bonfire Toffee apple. How does that sound? I'm making it up as I go along. It's brilliant, isn't it? It's not bad actually, it's drinkable, it's definitely drinkable. I think when it's matured it'll be fine. Come on, let's just get on with it. I want this to be a fizzy cider, so each 750ml bottle gets a generous one of these, and that's the equivalent to a very good heaped teaspoon, and that's what I want. That means that any yeast left in suspension in the cider will have something to feed on. It will create a tiny bit more alcohol, but as a byproduct of that it will create CO2, and the CO2 will create pressure, and that is what gives it the sparkle. Now I'm going to add some apple flavour with the MyProtein Flavdrops. So for each of these bottles I'm going to add a full pipette, which is the equivalent of 15 drops. So siphoning tube goes in. I'll try and clip it in place. I'm hoping that the bottom of the tube is in the bottom of the bottle, but it's hard for me to tell, to be quite honest. God, I've got a right dab on today. Let's do this. Yeah, it's definitely in the bottom of the bottle because it's caused a vacuum. That's it. Right, we're flowing. It's coming out very slowly. It must be stuck against the bottom of the bottle still, but I'm just going to leave it. If you look at it in the pipe, there definitely is some opacity to it, so hopefully that will look okay in the glass. Well, I think we'll call it a day at that. Seeing as though we're so close to the bottom, I'm happy to sacrifice that bit. Okay, I'm just going to crown cap the 500ml or whatever it is. It's an Erdinger bottle. Somebody tell me. I think they're 500. Maybe lower. Anyway, just using the Kegland Predator. Oh, there we go. Capped. Okay, with my bunged bottles, I need to add the cages because when the yeast in suspension eats the priming sugar, it creates pressure, and without the cages, the bungs become missiles. Right, that's one. You don't need to watch me do the rest. It's not that exciting. So my bottles are all bunged, capped, caged, etc. But they're a bit sticky, so I'm just giving them a rinse. Because I need to label them. And I want them to be clean. So I'm just going to work out the ABV of my Bonfire Toffee cider. So I take the original gravity of 1.054. I deduct from that the final gravity of 1.054. That equals 0.054. I multiply that by 131.25, and that gives me a final alcohol by volume of 7%. I'm happy enough with that. Okay, I've made some labels up using a simple template in Microsoft Word. I'm just going to print these out. Just labelling my bottles up. I want them to look nice and professional. There's no doubt with that, is there? We want what's on the inside to be good, so let's present it properly. Oh, I've gone and said that and spoiled this one. Put this one to the back. Don't tell anybody. And there they are. Welcome to my roasting conservatory, folks. 25-degree days in September. Wow, it is so warm in here. As you can see, we grow peppers. It's basically a south-facing greenhouse abutted to our home. And here is where my Bonfire Toffee apple cider is going to condition under this table down here. It's out of direct sunlight and it'll be just fine down there. And it's going to stay down there for 1 month before I open it. So it's going to be truly a dark and autumnal brew, and I'll catch you then. See you later, folks. Good evening from the kitchen, folks. It's Bonfire Toffee cider opening night. Is it going to be like Bonfire Toffee? Is it going to be like a damp squib? Is it going to be like Guy Fawkes' funeral? I've got no idea. Let's just see what happens. What I want, hopefully, when I open this is a bit of a pop. Something that sounds like nice. There's a bit of gas in there. I'd like when I pour it to see some bubbles. I'd like it to smell nice. I'd like it to taste nice. I'd like it to taste like toffee. It's probably a long shot. I don't know. I've completely and utterly fudged this. So I don't know if it's going to be a recipe which is going to work or not. But let's just bloody see what happens. Come on, let's just do it. Stop talking, Stuart. So just getting the cage off, and just as I'm doing this, I need to ask you, are you following my Facebook page, Moss Home and Garden? If you're not, I've been reliably informed that you should be by the people that are telling me how to run social media. So there you go. If you're not doing, please do it. Right. The bung hasn't raised. This is suggesting to me it's not going to make a sparkle and a pop. I don't know. Let's see what happens. Oh, bit of a pop, little bit of vapour. You hear that? Let's see what happens. Oh, it's dark. That says Bonfire Night to me. What about you? What do you reckon? Oh God, that smells potent. That smells like that smells like beer. That doesn't smell like cider. Ooh, that is confusing. Ooh. That is the most unusual tasting cider that I've ever tasted. If you'd given me this blind and told me it was a beer, I would have believed you. A sweet sort of marshmallow porter, I would have believed you. It's sweet, it's dark, it's got a beery quality to the flavour. It's really tasty, it's nice, but not how I would expect a cider to taste, ever, ever. So Bonfire Toffee apple cider, I'd say it's a winner. Get experimenting, kids. Do your version. Show me what you've got. See you later, and I'll catch you on the next brew. The film that you've just watched is a Moss Home and Garden production. You can find more by going to www.mosshomeandgarden.co.uk. I'd just like to say thank you very much for supporting my YouTube channel and for watching my films. It really is very much appreciated. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to my YouTube channel in order to receive future updates about the home and garden films which I upload. You can find my YouTube channel by going to www.mosshomeandgarden.co.uk. Please click on the red subscribe button. When you've done that, a little bell will appear. If you press that also, then you'll get future updates about the films which I upload. If you like my films, if you like my style of filming, then you might also like my travel channel, which you will find by going to youtube.com/Stuart Moss or type in www.mosstravel.tv. Again, if you could subscribe to that channel, it would be hugely appreciated. If you'd like to get Moss Home and Garden updates on Facebook, then please open Facebook and do a search for Moss Home and Garden, and you will find the page. If you like the page, then you will get future updates on there. And if you'd like to connect on Instagram for home, garden and travel photography, as well as some stories, then my username is StuMoss, STUMOSS. If you'd like to connect on Twitter, then my username is @StuartMoss. And if you'd like to contact me about film usage or any other issue, please just email me on stewmosshomegarden@gmail.com. Once again, thank you very much for supporting my channel, for watching my films. I do appreciate it. I'd just like you all to have a great day.